Frank Walton, and I would like to thank Susan and NASAP for their continued support. They are our parent organization. But I'm here mainly and briefly to introduce a dear friend, our keynote speaker, Alyson Schafer. Alyson has established herself through the years as a parenting expert in North America and in Europe. She has done that through her family therapy, but moreover through writing 3 popular books that some of you have seen. They're out here for sale. She has her own TV show, parenting TV show in Canadian television. She's a guest columnist for Huffington Post, and she is one of my dear friends through the years. She can be a very good-humored person, and she told me that this is a touching time of the year because of the 1st of October, all 3 of her children will be out of prison at the same time.
So he steals my first joke. First thing about this room, you know, if you have a speaker, you're supposed to like talk to the whole audience. I'm gonna have to be like this and then down here to talk to you guys. So I'm gonna try to be really fair with this space. But so I was gonna say I have my blue belt in parenting. And how you earn that is, you know, that my kids are flown and grown, and not one of them had an unwanted baby, not one of them ended up in jail. So yeah, or they're getting out soon. My kids are 24 and 25, and I was raised by Adlerian parent educators myself. So it's been quite a great journey. I'm very passionate about the subject of families. So when Frank asked me about talking to this group today, and I was thinking about what I might share and contribute, I really do have these opportunities that come to me because of my work in Canada that give me an opportunity to see a little bit about what really is landing culturally for family life today. So it's wonderful. So I get to step up when the federal government wants to talk about why moms have vaccine hesitancy, and I get to work with Facebook when they're saying parents are afraid to come on the platform, talk about how parents receive that. So Adler is up at the table and in that conversation, and it's a great privilege to take that forward. And you know, part of Adlerian psychology, and I'm curious, how many people here are here for this conference for the first time and they're really just learning about Adler for the first time? Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you come to love him as much as we do, because clearly we're fans. And how many people in this room are actually parents, and this is topical to you in your own personal life rather than professionally? Oh, that's awesome. Okay, great. Well, in Adlerian psychology, Alfred Adler said if we're to understand people, we need to see them in their social context. And there's sort of a famous story about how he developed a lot of his theory around noticing that as a physician, that tailors in the industry of sewing would come into his office and there was a lot of tuberculosis. And when he went to their workplace and saw the tailor shops and saw how terrible the living conditions were, he said, really, if we're going to treat a person, we need to be holistic. We need to see them in their full context. And so that's something that we keep near and dear to us. And when we're looking at parenting specifically, and knowing that our kids are social creatures, that's really what human beings are. This brain that we got has sort of 2 basic things that it does. It loves to learn, and it loves to be social. And so when a baby comes into a family, yes, they have their genetic predispositions, but they start learning right away. And that first social group that they're trying to understand and kind of find their place in is the family. So that family life is really, really important. I like to think of it as like a terrarium. If you were gonna put a kid in a terrarium, no, don't do this at home. Work with the metaphor. If you're to put a child in a terrarium and you wanted to create a world where that child would survive and thrive and be its best self, what would that look like? And what do our families look like today? So good old Adler, although we think about it, he was giving these ideas and philosophies 100 years ago. Family life looks a whole lot different. Actually, just this morning out of curiosity, I Googled all important inventions since 1937, because I thought, like, if we could get him on the phone, like, wouldn't it be kind of cool, right? It's like, first of all, no, we're talking on a phone, like that, right? No, we're gonna FaceTime you, Alfred. You'll never believe. I mean, he was around before rubber tires. He died before we had rubber tires. We have Velcro. Like, think of how many things we have to update him on. It's pretty crazy, actually. And yet the relevancy of what he had to say still stands the test of time, which is amazing. So thank you, Alfred. So as I look at families and I think of that little terrarium, and as people come into my office, usually this is what I see in my private practice 2 days a week. Usually this is how parents arrive. Okay, yeah, so I'm so sorry, I couldn't find parking. Just a second, you know what, just a second. This is the nanny, I gotta just take this. We'll start the session in just a second. Yeah, okay, no, that's fine. You'll pick him up at school? Who's gonna pick him up at school? Okay, well, she's gotta be in carpool. I've got a session going. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Like, okay, take a deep breath. How was your homework? I didn't get time to do the homework. Parents today are so busy. It's the number one thing that I notice in that little terrarium of a life that our kids are looking around, the parents, and I'm guilty of this. Like, I want you to know, I'm not saying I got this all mastered. I'm saying what I observe and see and what is part of the family culture right now. We have very busy parents. And part of what's making us busy is that things have changed for women. More women are getting educated, which is a good sign. Alfred would like that. But it also means that because they're getting educated and they're entering the workplace at higher rates, women are very serious about their careers. We're trying to find bigger positions of leadership. And so when we delay starting our families. So now we're not having our families until we're in our 30s, which means we might be infertile, and if we're infertile, then that means we gotta go through process. So we're not having our first babies till we're 30. And so now we've got the pull between the wanting to be the woman who's emancipated and looking for leadership positions, and we still have to run the family home. That as much as men, this is another change, men actually are stepping up much more in terms of distribution of labor at home. They are, and they want to be recognized for that, but they are still too embarrassed to ask for pat leave, which we have in Canada, because they think that they will be looked down upon, that they won't look loyal, that they won't be put up for job promotions. It's still sort of a negative thing. And that moms still do the overdoing in the household, because even though dads are stepping up and showing up and motivated more than they ever were before, women still want to use them as a task doer. We don't share the role. It's more like we have an employee, he's called the other partner, and we will assign him tasks, but we're the women in the family take the lead, and we still do all the managerial pieces, and we get spread very thin. The other thing is that we're actually very overwhelmed with what we have to do, because we have this lovely thing called Google. And so now we go on the internet, and if anything comes up, we're constantly researching. We don't trust the authorities. We don't necessarily trust our pediatricians anymore. We're very skeptical. We want to become our own authority and do our own primary research, and we do our own primary research on every single topic that there is. So suddenly we've got to be a chemist, because you got to find out whether or not the BPA's in your sippy cup are actually going to interact and, be a biohazard. Well, what about education? Well, that's going to be a whole other thing that we got to look into. What's the best way? We've got to learn how to do A's, and what if they inverse? And is that dyslexia? And I don't know. There's a whole dyslexia association over here. So we end up being flooded with information, too much information, and it becomes so overwhelming to us. It's hard for us to find our voices. I love it because there's democracy of information now that we have the internet. Back when it was the invention of the printing press and everything was controlled by those who have the printing presses, now everyone can publish. I think that's the beautiful thing. And I think as Adlerians, it's one of the places where we can start thinking about how we get our content into the hands of our end users, of our parents, because that's where they're looking. They're not going to the yellow pages to look up clinical help. They're going to bump into, just so you know, the most searched term to drive people to my website is still pooping pants at 8 years old. Thank you very much. You want to talk about a niche therapist? but believe me, I would probably have enough people to keep a full practice just on that topic alone. 9-year-olds, someone else can take that niche. If you want to take just pooping pants at 9 years old, you can have that whole market. But it's amazing because if our information can join the multitude out there, and if we would all start using the hashtag Adler, it would pull our content together, and people who got interested in what we have to say could start following our streams of information. And while parents are overwhelmed and they won't take a 12-week parenting class anymore, like that's a joke. You can't get a parent to take a 12-week courses became 8-week courses. Everyone's still shaking their heads, 8 weeks, never. 6 weeks, no. 4-week course, I did a 4-week one for a little while, no. Now I'm down into short half-day workshops, and they'd really like to do it online so they don't have to leave home at all. And better, they'd like to do it at work where work pays. And so we have to start thinking about if we're going to get parent education, reach and support parents and be helpful, we've got to meet them where they are and how they want to deliver content. So we got to shift things around in our delivery system. So I'm working more and more because the workplace realizes they've got a retention problem with these busy parents, and there's a lot of wellness programs now in the workplace. And we need to capitalize on that because we can get our message in there through our lunch and learns or whatever. But people are now saying, I would rather have flexible time at work or less hours than than having money in a raise. That if we're going to truly be Adlerian and change those ecosystems, yes, we have to change the ecosystem of the family to be more conducive for our kids to thrive, but we have a societal responsibility to change the policies of our workplace environments, our greater society around the economics to support the good things that we want in our family. And I think that we've got an important voice that we can get out there that won't be shut down if we use that democracy of the internet. And hopefully not with the overload. So this is a video, which we don't have audio for, so I'm not gonna play it, because I think that's a smart thing to do. But I do wanna tell you about Cat and Nat, because when I introduced these ladies, when I did the Ansbacher lecture, this is like that, where is Thomas actually? Thomas, I put this in last night just for you. It wasn't in the original talk. He said, you're gonna bring back the crazy ladies from that, but you need to know about them. Cat and Nat are actually 2 Toronto moms who started a little Facebook Live chitty-chatty thing. They're now millionaires. Their kids go to my nursery school, actually. But they are, you need to just watch a couple of their videos if you want to understand what life is like for families in this day and age. They represent the mania of it. They represent the craziness of it. And they're so popular that they now take bus tours like a rock band, and they're now a Vegas act. And all they do is talk about mom rants. So with this particular one, oh yeah, she's going on about all the little demands of things that I gotta do, pack lunches and whatever. But if you are saying I'm feeling out of touch, with my clients, or I wanna get a sense of what family culture is like, this is one perspective. Now, albeit I will say, Canadian, white, female, not poverty, not same sex, from a diversity point of view, this is the people that end up filling my private practice. So check them out if you want to get a sense of what's going on, what's the life of a common parent if you're not already living it yourself. So parents are busy, and the kids are busy too, really busy. This fascination with busyness, and I want to put this on your radar now as you interact with people, as you say hi, where are you from, whatever, just how you doing, just notice how many people answer the question, how are you doing with busy? I'm busy, yeah, things are busy, really busy. That there is a status around being busy. In this Protestant work ethic kind of American, individualistic, competitive, get to the top, we like to be busy. It is a badge of honor. It is a status symbol to us. We don't like leisure. Leisure is like wasted time. We could be developing ourselves. Kids can't have downtime. They could be being enriched. Some other kid is getting ahead. Don't you know my little kid over here, he's already taking his Mandarin lessons. When I was growing up, French was the second language in Canada. Most of my clients that come to private practice have their kids in Mandarin lesson as their second language, because they know that the new economic world is going to require that language over French. So they're busy going off to hockey and to soccer and to Kumon and to tutors, and they're out the door all the time. And in fact, time studies from the Vanier Institute of the Family tracked dads, and they asked them they watched how many mindful minutes did they spend with their kids. Mindful minutes. It's very different than being home. There's lots of hours that parents are home with their kids, but the mindfully there piece turned out for dads to be only 7 minutes. 7 minutes of really connecting with our kids. Because when you have your kids in hockey and Kumon and soccer, and you've got to follow that schedule, it means most of your time at home is actually saying, let's go, we're gonna be late, we're gonna watch that. Right? That's what family life is about. Getting our kids out the door to be punctual for a commitment so that another adult can look after them for that time. So we don't have family time in the evening anymore. Listen, it's consumed what's left by the time they get back. Now we've got to get them doing homework. We're going to talk about education in just a minute. So that idea of the simple request of saying, what do you guys do for family fun? That's one of my intake questions. What do you guys do for family fun? Do you know how many families say, none, nothing, zero? There's no playing together anymore. And in fact, it's rare that a family's even under the roof at the same time, because somebody's got to take someone to ballet and somebody else has a commitment over at this soccer field where we're not even together at all anymore. And so what's happened is our kids are stressed. It's not even just the recreational sports. Everything is, again, more competitive. It's very hard to find cooperative leisure leagues. Everything is based on, if you're going to go to swimming lessons and you start as a guppy and then you become a sunfish and a sunfish becomes a shark, and where are you in the progression? And all those kids know they're going to move up, They absolutely, it's all about, my kids got to get to the top. So it is stressful for them. And it's also incredibly structured. A lot of it actually, interestingly enough, in some of those, the kids actually say they're bored because you got to wait your turn a lot. They're not used to that, actually. That's going to be their biggest downtime, is waiting to get up to bat. There it is, there's your whole free time. You're not up for 3 more players. Soak it in. That's your 10 seconds of free time in your life. So our kids are coming home, they're also very tired of doing all these activities. Our kids today sleep 1 hour less than a decade ago. That 1 hour doesn't sound like a lot, and a lot of people want to attribute the obesity crisis to this. It does not track, apparently. That in fact, and doesn't track with screen time. When you tell a kid to get off their screens, they don't say, well, I think I'm gonna go play soccer then. They don't. They get off their screen and they go lie down and do something else passive. So that doesn't track either. What does track is sleep. So they say that there's a whole change in your metabolism. The importance of sleep just cannot be overstated. I tell parents that it is like the rinse cycle on your dishwasher. Your body needs to flush and heal, but it's also where the learning from the day gets embedded into your long-term memory. Your deep learning happens while you sleep. So they've studied kids now, and 10 minutes of loss of sleep maps out on cognitive scores the next day will drop a kid by 2 grade levels. So someone in grade 6 will be functioning at a grade 4 level with 10 minutes lack of sleep. Our kids are missing up to an hour. And our kids are not sleeping because they do things after school all day, and then they still have to do homework. And when we finally get them in from yelling at them from the hockey thing, and now we gotta yell at them because they're not doing well at school. So life is busy and stressful for kids too. The other big trend that I'm seeing is that parents having busy kids who don't have any sleep, that have a lot of pressure on them, and parents that are busy, they are really afraid, are unwilling, can't seem to set limits and boundaries. This is a regular reoccurring piece in my practice. And what I have noticed is that part of it is because parents, first of all, don't play the long game of parenting. They don't, it's really hard to say, I know that they should sit at the table to eat, and I know that they would learn if I took their plate away, but I just gotta get through today because I'm tired, right? We'll work on that later. You know what, he's tired too, he just came back from soccer, he's gonna have a meltdown, I don't wanna deal with a meltdown. Or we just have parents who are just so afraid of kids' emotions. That somehow, when we started teaching parents about attachment theory, and attachment and belonging, connecting with human beings as social creatures is a big part of Adlerian psychology. But never did we think that by setting a firm limit in a friendly way, and a child getting upset about that frustration of life, and getting upset about it, that we are in some way damaging them or hurting our relationship. That's what popular culture, that's what misunderstanding of a theory has led to. So now when a child cries and a parent is distraught because they think they're wrecking the primary attachment, they let the child run around and not come to the table to eat dinner. When they say, I'm scared of the boogeyman, I want to sleep in your bed. Well, that's anxiousness. I can't have a child who's anxious. What kind of mother would I be if I didn't respond to that emotion by caving and letting them come into my bed? So our kids are really having no exposure, very little exposure to some of the basic parent training that is so key to socializing our kids on how to be a member of society. So it's not so much about discipline. This is really about guiding the child so that they can function with their fellow person in the family or in the classroom. And of course, then they end up arriving at their first day of school, which is the first social group outside of the terrarium. They finally got out of your terrarium, they're in the bigger world, now they're in the classroom, and they won't sit at the carpet. Well, they don't sit at the carpet because they don't want to sit at the carpet. This is the first time anyone's ever given them a rule. It's like, at my house, I do things when I want, as I want, all the time. Don't those rules apply here? So we have kids that are very ill-prepared for going into their school environment. We gotta encourage parents that it is okay, that the gift of training our kids to be successful socially outside and inside the family is something treasured. And the fact that they're upset, well, think about it. If they got upset because you didn't give them cotton candy for breakfast and they cried, could you handle that? Everyone seems okay with that. It'd be crazy to give my kid cotton candy for breakfast, but they're demanding it, they're crying, they're screaming. Why is it we're okay with that and we have so much trouble with other constructs? To me, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. Yes, they're emotional. It's okay. You'll manage. That's right. We do have to have a bath at least once a week. I know. It's sad, isn't it? It's tough to be you. It's tough. Education is just huge. How many people here have parents come in and the thing that they're worried about is kids' motivation and academic accomplishment? It's a big deal. And so if we just again look at the trends, we're so fearful that our kids are not going to manage this task. And really the entire terrarium of the school classroom, I think, is also rather toxic. Again, we're going back to measuring kids on every single thing. They know they're being watched, they know they're being measured. God forbid they don't do well. It's a very discouraging environment. We used to connect classes. It used to be that you went on like a camping trip before you started the year, or you at least had to color a page and tell people about your summer holiday. The little all about me page or something. They don't do that anymore because they gotta get that first report card out in 3 weeks. So, it's really become very intense. And I come from a family of educators, and actually my girlfriend's just retiring, and she said, it's not the same profession. She said, I got into it because I love kids, and I'm getting out of it because I can't stand the paperwork. It's all paperwork. Everything is paperwork. Everything needs a report. Everything, the watching and the tracking. And one of the most successful education systems in the world is in Finland. In Finland, they have no more than 3 hours homework, ever. And they have no tests and no grades. And those kids are thriving. That's the terrarium we need to be building over here for our kids. Education needs a major overhaul. So this worry that kids hear from a very young age, and you can hear terrible stories. 7-year-olds arriving at psychiatric hospitals, suicidal because they're supposed to know what they're gonna be when they grow up. It's ridiculous pressure to put on kids. But we support it. We're so worried. You got a good education. That's the formula for life, because if you have good education, you'll go to a good college. If you go to a good college, you get a good job. And that's what you're supposed to do. And kids hear that right from the very get-go. It's ingrained in them all the time. And so this scarcity mentality is enough to cause pressure and anxiety for anyone. as if there's only so much room on the planet and only for the select few that make it through to the cream of the crop. So I think one of our jobs is to change that story up and to tell our kids every single person on this planet has value and has a contribution to make. And your job is to be your best authentic self and to find the place where life's long yearning intersects with the gifts you have to give, and you'll find it. You'll find it at some point. And if we could come at it with that abundance attitude, if we could come at it with that level of encouragement, our kids will go off and do all kinds of wonderful things. The other thing is that education needs to change because the workforce is changing. And don't forget that that's what they're worried about. They're worried about how do we make the next workforce have the skills that we want. So you're going to hear a lot about STEM learning because that's, and kids are coding. Kindergarten students, I work with Apple Computers, they just launched a coding program for kids in kindergarten. Our kindergartens can code now. And we don't do cursive anymore. They don't teach cursive in Canada. I don't know if you do cursive. Why? Why would you need cursive? That's a waste of a subject to teach. We need to think about not only what we're teaching and how we're teaching it, because you wonder why you get kids who aren't motivated at school and don't want to go to school, because in the old days, going to school was great because the alternative was going and working out and detasseling the corn on the farm. Like, get me to the classroom, it's so much more relaxed. Now you say you gotta go to school and they're like, I gotta put down the Fortnite? I don't wanna go. In fact, we have all kinds of new learnings about how we can engage kids in learning. And if we engage them, you've got their mind, they won't let go. And people who design game technologies know that. But we can use all those applications for teaching in the classroom. So you can now get a certificate from Apple Teacher. They'll teach you how to use Mac products to teach. And I think the idea of even just getting together under one roof by age cohorts is really still just a dinosaur from the 1800s. I think that's gonna start changing up too. Everyone will be on an individual learning plan. There'll be no stigma behind it. We'll meet everyone where their interest is. And artificial intelligence is gonna take over a lot of the stuff that our kids get, they don't wanna do their homework because they're like, why do I need to learn the population of all the states? I can just, Siri, what are the population of all the states? Why are you making me memorize this? And then we wonder why they're unmotivated. Because we ask them to do stupid things. That's why. If we listened, maybe we could actually hear what needs to happen. We need to overhaul education if we're going to keep kids engaged. So as artificial intelligence comes in, what's left is the part that's the sweet spot, our humanity. The future really calls for two big pieces that computers can't do. And then that's cooperation and collaborations in teams to be creative around human things. Machines can't do that. So how great for us, because who is gonna have the most cooperative, collaborative, creative kids? Well, gosh darn it, so it's Adlerian children. We've been training this since the first training at home, because we've been having family meetings, and we've been asking them to problem solve, we've been asking them to be in the same boat with their brother and sister and work things out. Right? They're not kids who are raised under an obedience model that beats the creativity out of them. They say that if you ask a 6-year-old, how many ideas do you have for the use of this paperclip? A 6-year-old will give about 600 ideas of what to do with a paperclip. By the time they get to grade 6, apparently they only know about 10. We start off really creative, and then we stifle creativity. Well, we got to change that up. If the future is asking us to be collaborative and creative and ingenious on that human level, we'll be ready. So, again, how many people here have as a presenting issue in either their families or their clinical problem that tech is invading, tech's taking over? It's not usually the presenting issue, but I have not yet counseled or dealt with a family where this didn't come up as a problem. We don't know what to do with this new thing called technology. Now, I come from a tech positive family, if you want to call it that. We were early adopters at every kind of tech there was. And so I had generally a positive attitude about technology, and I still have a positive attitude about technology. So I have an optimistic message to share, which is, you can do this thing. It doesn't need to be overwhelming. That technology is a tool that you can use for the betterment of your life if you decide to manage it, not let it manage you. And so as parents, I think first we need to model that. What is your relationship with your technology? How often are you looking at the phones? Because I'll get as many kids complaining, my mom doesn't play with me, she's watching Netflix. You know, I work with Kids Help Phone, and the Kids Help Phone counselors, actually they now have texting, by the way. Kids don't talk on phones. They want a phone, but they don't talk on a phone. I think we all know that now, right? But Kids Help Phone is one of the biggest Canadian-wide distress line for they don't say youth, they basically say anyone who calls in. Because kids are calling in into their 20s. You know, they know the service, they want to get to a counselor, they want to do it immediately. So now they do texting, 24-hour texting. So, but kids are texting in, I'm scared, I'm in the back of the car, my mom's texting and driving. Well, that's true. What are we modeling to our kids about our relationship with technology? And again, although we have flexibility in the workplace, and in the beginning people were like, well, I'm afraid if we give our workers a computer, then they'll, you know, they're gonna take it home, but they're not gonna work, they're gonna be lazy. That didn't work out. Now we have computers for work, and so now we can't focus on our kids because we've actually got this 24/7 stream of work emails that kind of never ends. When I started my career, I used to tuck my kids into bed, and I would go to my office and I try to get like a couple hours of work done, and I was like, oh, I'm getting ahead of the game. Like I pushed all my emails off to the other person until then suddenly, well, why are people replying at 10:30 at night? Like, I'm supposed to be ahead of the game. This was my ploy to get ahead of the game. The next thing you know, I'm doing like full-on business at midnight now. You can do full-on business anytime you want, if you turn it on. If you don't manage it, if you don't put bookends in. So the talk that I give to parents on managing technology, I get asked to talk about this a lot at schools, and basically what I do to give them the assurance is, if you could teach your child how to ride a bicycle, you can teach your child how to use digital technology and integrate it into your life in a safe way. It's got so many of the same principles. You don't start training your kid on how to ride a bike by giving them a $10,000 Italian racing bike and put them at the top of the Alps and push. Neither do you give your 10-year-old an iPhone as their first piece of technology, you know, because the first thing they're going to type in is PORN, and it's going to be right there, and it's not your grandfather's porn. I mean, I remember finding this pen where like you tipped it and the bra went down or whatever, you know, the little float, you know what I'm talking about, the old people in the room, maybe know something. That was porn, was finding the pen, you didn't even top them off. That's not what you're gonna find anymore. So if we need to start with spending time, take time for training, just like anything else we talk about in Adlerian psychology, that we need to start on safe platforms like a tricycle that has little biking wheels, and a lot of these platforms now are age appropriate, they do have parental controls. We need to supervise them, kind of run them beside like you did on the bike to make sure that they don't ride off into the road, they know how to use their brakes. And once you see that they've got competencies and you keep an eye to make sure they can get a little farther away and get a little bit more freedom, but you keep checking, make sure they get their helmet on, certain firewalls, and you work up to it. And so there's an important role for parents, but you understand take time for training. You understand show me competence, I'll show you faith. We understand expanding boundaries as your skill set goes up. And supervision is not the same as snooping, which means I don't want you to come into my counseling office and say, look, I took this video of my kid having a tantrum, and in it they'll say, I'm showing the counselor. No, go ahead, I'm gonna show the counselor. It's shaming, we shame our kids. Or they'll come and they go, look, I don't know, look at her text line. Do you know what? Look at, see, I think the friends, I don't like that friend. I'm like, we had troubles with friendships when we were kids. We have this access now to hover into our kids' life in this pervasive way that is none of our business. You know, so if you think about social media as sort of like kids having a sleepover. Are they gonna tell a dirty joke? Probably, right? But you might open the door to the top of the stairs and shout down and say, hey, you girls having a good time down there? Is everything fine? You keep an eye, right? You don't take a lawn chair and sit down in the middle of their sleepover and say, I'm just gonna keep an eye on this, make sure all the friendships are fine, right? They don't do that. We're so fearful. We can take those other ways of parenting and we just map them onto how things are happening on the internet. It doesn't need to be so frightening for us, but we do need to manage it. The other thing is that youth culture is actually getting more powerful. And again, people get really scared of youth culture. Well, let's see how you guys are with youth culture. Okay, put up your hand if you know all 4 of these. And look at how old you are. Come on, Frank, what's a Finsta? Come on, what's thick? Nothing, got nothing. Anyone got 2? No 2? You know 3?
I'm 30 and I'm out.
They do have their own language, and you do have to keep up on it. But again, if we realize that one of the most important protective factors in anything that happens with your children comes from the basis of having a strong relationship with them. I work with Labatt's Breweries. They have a program and a worldwide mandate to reduce underage drinking by 2023. I've been on the program for 3 years, and one of the reoccurring messages that I have to say over and over again to parents is, just because you've been told the story that your teens are going to be influenced by peers and drift away, if you believe that myth, you will have your teens influenced by peers and they will drift away. In fact, the #1 influencer on children's decisions outside the home is still their parents, not their peers. Yes, they want peer acceptance, but it's not always the biggest determinant. You have far more power than you think. And there was another thing, but I'm 56, so you can't say I have 2 things to say, because now I'm committed to the other one and I've already forgot it, so. I'm learning, but that one slipped out. So we can think about some of the things online with our youth culture that might be frightening to us, but if we have a strong relationship with our kids and we stay in open communication and dialogue, your kids will educate you. They'll tell you what blue whale is. Do you know what blue whale is? Yeah, so blue whale was a big problem a while ago, because that was actually an online challenge where you took progressive steps, the last step of which was to commit suicide. Not good. There's people that are like into Anna. Anna is like groups that get together and they all support each other to get thinner with their anorexia. And again, interestingly, my work with Facebook is now disbanding those groups. They have the power to collapse those groups. Right? Yeah. I work with Facebook. They listen to parents. They've got a committee. Facebook is owned and Instagram are owned. In Canada, they've just done a test. They said, we're going to try not allowing the like button to show the likes, because kids will put up a post and then they're like, oh, I only got 4 likes on my post, and that's like humiliating to post something and not have likes on it, so you have to take it back down. This is creating all kinds of pressure and anxiety for kids. So Instagram said, well, you could just see your own likes and see how many people liked it, but it's not published, so other people can see it. So they've run the trial. All of that is to say, technology is listening. They want the world to be safe too. They also have children that are on the internet, and they are changing technology to make it stronger and safer for us. So I believe technology will fix what technology broke. And so it is moving in the right direction. So there is youth culture online, and that is something that we need to pay attention to. And if we've got those strong relations, your kids will come to you for support and help explain what that youth culture is. And again, you can go into that world just the same way I'm saying as a parent, you can watch Cat and Nat, watch their movies, read their books, hang out online with them, so that you understand the importance when somebody ghosts you. You're like, well, what's the problem with that? If you lived in my world, being ghosted is like awful. We have to have them educate us. We need to experience it firsthand so we can be supportive. But I also know that youth culture is doing amazing things, because we've got a whole organization of youth leadership that can connect through the power of the internet. I believe those students that got together after the Lakeland shooting, the mass shooting, those are going to be the kids who get that gun control happening in your country.